Travis Heberling. Thanks for having me. This class is on a creative's guide to running a business. So we're gonna dive in, cover a lot of things, and we'll get started here. So what are we going to cover tonight? There's a few things that I'm going to kind of touch on, a few main topics. First off, we're going to talk about building a foundation. We're going to talk about the differences of freelancer versus a business owner and how you could technically be both, or you could decide which one fits your lifestyle better. How to get started. So if you're just getting going or you haven't even gotten going yet, just some steps to kind of get you to that next level. The mindset shift that happens when you go from kind of just a creative to becoming a business owner. Simple systems and setting those up and letting go of work and much more. So first off, just to introduce myself, again, I'm Travis. I started around 2011 with my professional career. I went to the Illinois Institute of Art in Schaumburg. That's actually what brought me up to the suburbs, and I've been up in the Chicago suburbs since. So I'm local to here. I've been through Addison many times, and I actually studied special effects and motion graphics. So originally I was going to go more that route. I always kind of just thought that I would be, just working for a big studio. They'd kind of tell me what to do, and I'd just be doing animation work for the rest of my life. And what happened was when I graduated, I found it very hard to get plugged into a studio. So a lot of places would like my work. They'd maybe let me do an internship or a few jobs here or there, but it was very hard to find consistent work. It was always kind of freelance based. And so I would just do odd jobs here and there for different businesses or studios. And as that progressed, I actually would get asked to do shoots for stuff too. So, I might be making an animated video for a business, and they'd be like, hey, you do this animation stuff. Can you come in and film a testimonial of one of our clients? And I was like, sure, I'll figure that out. So I would do that from time to time, started investing in gear with the money that I made from the jobs, and slowly just started preferring that kind of work better. And I just preferred being out more. I mean, animation was fun, but it's a lot of computer work, a lot of grinding, a lot of long nights. And I really like the video production and photography aspect because you do get to edit, which is cool. But a lot of the times your days are spent, going out and shooting and learning about different types of businesses and different types of people. And it was a good mix of kind of being out in public, but then also like when you just kind of need a break from people, you could still be in front of the computer for a few days doing work. So just kind of kept doing that. As I was progressing, I just was freelancing here and there. Like I was saying, I started shooting weddings for a company. And after doing that for a couple of years, I thought I could do it better myself. So I ended up leaving and started my own company, which at the time I wouldn't even consider it a real company. It was just kind of a Facebook page with my name on it. And so I started doing that. And around 2015 is when I started taking things more seriously. I set up an LLC, set up a business banking account, started getting help with contracts and things like that. And that was kind of when a shift happened for me where I started wanting to learn more about business and marketing and branding. Not that I gave up learning about the creative stuff. I'm still always learning and trying to improve my craft. But the business became almost more important to me than that because I wanted to have something that was sustainable, that I could be doing full time and not have to do like a 9 to 5 to go along with the thing that I like to do. As far as my personal life, I'm married to my wife, Emily. We've been married for about 6 years. We have our first kid on the way in August. So that'll be exciting. And in the meantime, we have 2 kids in the sense of fur babies. And so if I get distracted at some point, it's probably them running around my feet because they tend to like to do that whenever I have presentations. So now, as I was kind of alluding to, we do weddings, but we also do other things, outside of weddings. And we actually have 2 brands. And so the reason for that is with Visual Filmworks, we focus on creating content for companies, businesses, non-for-profits. And with Bella Tiamo, it's strictly focusing on shooting wedding films. And when you're talking to a bride compared to when you're talking to a business owner, it's two different languages, two totally different languages. So we used to try to put everything under the same brand, and it was very hard to have like a social media page and a website where you have, this lovey-dovey stuff for weddings, but then you're also talking about how, your videos will increase traffic to their website and all this kind of technical mumbo jumbo. So we ended up separating the two brands a couple years ago, and it's been super beneficial. And I just bring that up as just kind of encouragement for you, where, if you're maybe trying to do a lot of different things, like if you do want to get into photography and you do like doing headshots, but then you also like doing weddings, but you also like doing product photos, at a certain point, it might be good to separate that. Starting out, it might be good to kind of have it under one brand so you kind of get going. But as you progress and you start kind of turning into an actual business, I would recommend maybe splitting off different brands for each kind of category that you're covering. So before we get started, I have a couple just short little videos. I have one that's commercial related and then one that's wedding related, just to kind of give you a little bit better idea of what we do. And then this is a short little teaser from one of our weddings, just a few shots that I threw together in 40 seconds. All right, so let's get started here. So first off, I wanted to start about just talking about setting a foundation. Now, it can be very hard to get started when people realize how much work it is to turn a craft or a hobby into something that is your main income. A lot of times they give up. I know even myself getting started, I as soon as I left kind of my 9-to-5 retail job and wanted to start pursuing this full time, there were a few times as I was progressing in those first few years where I was like, should I find another job? Should I find other sustainable income? And it's a lot of work, but I just want to encourage you to not give up. Just keep pushing through even when things get hard, because it is very rewarding to be able to do something you love for work. It's kind of a cliche saying, but I know a lot of times people are like, if you do something you love, it's never a day of work. Well, I mean, it is true to an extent. There's still a lot of things I have to do that I don't love to sustain my business. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade the freedom that I have now, being able to do what I do, and instead of like having to work at a commercial or like a corporate type job, like a 9-to-5 job. I'm so glad that I'm doing what I'm doing now. But obviously when you're kind of starting out, it's very hard to kind of break the mold of what you might be used to, which is a comfortable 9-to-5 type job. So I wanted to introduce this concept that I learned about not too long ago. I basically call it VEST, and it's it's a way for you to kind of set those building stones of your foundation. And so first off, you want to visualize. You want to visualize the business that you want to create. So it's good to lay out what it is that you want to do exactly. So, for a lot of people, it's maybe, hey, I want to become a photographer. well, okay, what kind of photographer do you want to be? Do you want to just shoot babies? If you're like, no, I can't stand shooting babies. And it's like, okay, well, that's not a client for you. Do you want to shoot weddings? Yes, I love to shoot weddings. So maybe you're just going to focus only on weddings. It really kind of think like, what do you want your business to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? Are you a jack of all trades where you're, doing any kind of photography, or do you want to be a specialist in something? Um, Next, you want to evaluate where your current state and how it differs from your vision. So this might be, okay, you in 5 years, you want to be totally independent. You want to be running your own business, and you want to be, doing your craft as your business. Well, if you're at a 9 to 5 job, it's going to be very hard to do that full time, because then that's, basically two full-time jobs going on. So to get to that point, what do you need to do? Well, you need to probably start saving up money, start taking some maybe freelance jobs, maybe start selling, your product or your service on the side. And then once you're comfortable and have enough saved up, that's when you leave your 9 to 5 job. Next, you want to strategize. You want to think about your vision and strategies, the most effective way to make that change. So this is where you just kind of start putting pen to paper and start writing out these goals and what you need to do and how you're going to do that, how much money you need to save, things like that. And then lastly, it's just taking action. So it's moving forward on these other three things and just doing it after you have it all planned out. But definitely, I recommend planning things out before you just kind of jump in and be like, all right, I'm going to quit my job. Like this is a good way to kind of just build that foundation before you get going. So before you kind of, once you got your foundation going and kind of during that time when you're starting to take that step, it's good to define what you want to be. Do you want to be a freelancer, a business owner, or maybe a little bit of both? Now, neither of these is necessarily wrong, and I'll kind of explain the difference. So if you take a wedding DJ, for example, if they want to just kind of be a freelancer, they would probably be best off finding a studio to work for as a subcontractor. So that studio then would find leads for them, and they'd be like, hey, I'm going to book you on, this date in May, these 2 dates in June, and they'll fill up their calendar for them. And they don't have to worry about kind of the back end of running a business. Now, obviously, they're probably not going to be making as much being a freelancer, but they also usually don't have to worry about anything before the event and after the event. They just kind of show up, they do their job, and they get to go home. This applies the same with like a photographer. Like if you are not at all interested in running a business, but you love shooting photography, you might be better off as a freelancer and just finding other people that have already established their business and working under them. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. I did that a lot when I was starting out. I still do that from time to time. Like if someone needs an extra shooter or something, I'm happy to shoot for their business, come in that day, do the job, hand over the footage to them, and move on. Now, as a business owner, it's a little different. So if you're looking to become a business owner, essentially you're an entrepreneur. So you're looking to kind of run everything. And it doesn't mean that you have to always be doing everything, but a lot of times starting out, it means you're going to be doing the bookkeeping, you're going to be sending contracts, you're going to be sending invoices, you're going to be finding the leads, you're going to be booking the leads, you're going to be delivering everything. So there's a lot more moving pieces to it, but it doesn't mean that you always will need to do that, because if you are trying to become a business owner, eventually your goal would be to try to give some of that work away. So you'd actually be hiring extra help, whether that's part-time, full-time, subcontract, just hiring out services. Like for myself, when I was, kind of getting built up with all this editing and I couldn't keep up with the editing, there was a service that did editing for different things like real estate videos. So I would use their service whenever I needed it, as opposed to just hiring someone, because it wasn't consistent. So I just needed to have someone there from time to time. So I think it's really good to define what you're wanting to do. Are you, like I was saying, are you looking to just kind of do the thing that you love to do, like photography or being a DJ, and you don't want to worry about any of the back end stuff like contracts? Then maybe it's better just to be a freelancer. But for those that kind of want more of that freedom of owning your own business, going out, finding your own leads, booking your own leads, and kind of putting your 100% stamp on everything you do, then definitely the route of being a business owner is the way to go. So where do we start? There's no set formula or one size fits all guide to getting your business up and running. I put together this checklist. Feel free to take a screenshot of it. This is just like some things I would recommend that you're kind of checking off as you're going. Um, if we went through all of these, we would be here very long. We'd probably be here till tomorrow going through each one of these. So there's two in particular that I'm going to kind of highlight in this, and it's setting up a CRM and a system and finding leads. Now, because I'm going to kind of focus on those two the most, I'll still kind of go through this and just kind of break down some of the things that I think are really important. First off, a name, it can be important to an extent, but at the same time, you don't want that to slow you down from doing your craft. So like, let's say you want to get into videography and you're really good at it. You already got a camera and you're learning. The name isn't super important starting out. Like you could literally just use your own name if you want to kind of get started, just so you're doing work. And then as you're progressing, if you're starting to maybe bring in extra help, like extra shooters, then that's where maybe like you come up with an actual brand name and get that going. But some things that I would highly recommend doing, even if you're barely making anything from what you're doing, is setting up a business bank account. That was a huge thing for me, just being able to have the separation of my personal funds with my business funds and being able to kind of keep track of where things are going. Because before then, I would just kind of dump, money that I was making from jobs into my personal, and there was just no great way to keep track of everything. Also, this protects you. Same with setting up an LLC. I highly recommend setting up an LLC or an S corp or anything like that right away, because that's going to allow you to separate yourself from your business. So especially for us that do things in the event space, if say something happens, God forbid, like a light falls on someone or a tripod falls on them or whatever it is, if they come to sue you, if you're set up as an LLC or an S corp or something along those lines, they can only go for the business. They can't go for you personally. But if you never had that set up, you didn't have any insurance, none of those things were taken care of, they could sue you personally, which means all of your assets could be thrown into this mix of, someone tripping on your tripod. So definitely those are some of the things I would really look into. And if you don't understand this stuff, I would definitely recommend hiring a professional. That's something I also put off for a long time, is I would try to do everything myself, like my taxes. And as soon as I hired someone, it was just so much easier and it saved me so much time. And I was doing things so wrong. So it was great to finally have someone. But like I was saying, we're gonna mostly focus in on CRMs and systems. So first off, with systems, and what exactly do I mean by a simple system? So a simple system is essentially setting up the things that you do all the time in a business and having that laid out in some way. So this is a CRM. We personally use 17 Hats. There's a lot of them out there, though. There's one called like Honeybook. I think like Tave is another one. But the reason why I really love 17 Hats is they really cater towards those in kind of the creative field. It's perfect if you're like a photographer, videographer, if you sell like maybe some arts and crafts stuff, if you're a DJ, wedding planner, a baker. It's perfect for kind of those like smaller team type people where maybe you don't have a lot of people under you, or maybe it is just yourself. And it's perfect for keeping track. So what does this do exactly for me? So essentially this allows me to have templates for my contracts, invoices, quotes. If a client inquires on our website, all the information they filled out on our website immediately goes into the CRM, and I could see everything right there, and it makes a project for them. And it also allows you to do things automated. So like if I have a new inquiry and I reply back to them like, hey, it'd be great to talk to you. Tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for in video. And if they don't reply, I can set up this auto kind of email funnel that will just start playing, and it'll keep going until they finally reply, and then it'll stop. And so that has saved me a ton of time. Whenever I was starting, I used to just like make contracts up off the fly on Word documents, and I'd have invoices all over the place, and I'd have some people would be sending me checks, some people would be sending me a PayPal, and all of this was just in a whole bunch of different places and was super unorganized. And as soon as I got a CRM, I was able to just have everything in one place, and it's super easy, not just for me but for our clients. It allows them to sign contracts online and pay their invoices online. And anytime they pay the invoice, it'll be right there for me to see, and it's great. Kind of an example I used when I first got the CRM and got it all kind of going. There was a couple that I was talking to for shooting their wedding, and they were kind of going back and forth on what they wanted to do. And I had to travel for a shoot that weekend, so I was on a flight. And when I got off the flight, my phone had notified me that they had signed their contract, they approved, what package they wanted, and then they paid the invoice and the retainer on the invoice. And I didn't have to do a single thing, other than that first call I did with them, sending them the package options, and then I left it over to them. And while I was flying in the air, they were able to basically book the package they wanted, sign a contract, and have a retainer over to me, and I didn't have to do anything. So it obviously it costs to have something like this, but it definitely saves a lot of time, and it just helps you keep things organized. And as you grow, you're going to be thankful that you have something like that. So going back to what I was talking about with systems, this is just kind of a basic example of what I would consider like a system for us. So whenever a wedding film or wedding photos are ready, we basically have this step process that we follow every single time. Some of it's automated, some of it I have to do myself. Um, but it allows us to know what we're doing every time, because it is the same thing every time for the most part. Every time it's maybe a little bit different, but for the most part, we're following the same steps throughout the whole process. So we have this laid out and we automate as much as of it we can. So then that way, whenever something is ready, we don't have to like go and try to find that email again and try to find this or that. It's just ready for us. So for us, what we do is, so whenever the photos and videos are ready, we let them know it's almost ready. So we have a template email that we send out that's just like kind of like, hey, something's coming soon, and maybe we'll give them like a little teaser trailer or like a screenshot or something like that. And then we'll share some behind the scenes on our Instagram. So like I'll maybe take like a video of me editing or something, like, hey, it's almost done, like that kind of thing, just to build that excitement. And then we'll share the teaser trailer online. And at this point, we already have everything typed out that we want to put in there. So I'm not just like kind of coming up with like a description and stuff for the Instagram post on the fly. This has already all been made, like probably whenever they booked their wedding. And it's just been waiting for me to kind of copy and paste it in, because when you're kind of in that mindset, like focusing on this one wedding, it's best to do as much as you can, because otherwise, if I was just kind of coming up with an Instagram post on the fly, I'm going to have to go and try to like remember what was their Instagram handle and stuff. But if like I already have this all made, then it makes everything like perfectly easy for me. Hold on one second, sorry. And then it goes even further than that. So like for us, we posted on YouTube, we posted on Facebook, and even with those kind of things, we have kind of a process that goes through with that. So like, for example, when a client books, we have some emails that we need to send to them. And so all these are already typed up, and we just, tweak them a little bit as needed. So we have a contract questionnaire, some tip emails, etc. And it took me a long time to set up these templates. Obviously, like it was like days of me like typing up these emails that we're going to use. But now when a client books, I just turn on the system inside of our CRM, which is 17 Hats, and it just does everything for me. So I have these already typed out of like, this is what happens next for them and all these kind of things. And it's stuff that the system can either do for me automatically, or I could have an assistant do, and I don't need to, because it's so straightforward for them to follow. Now, so here's like just an example email that we send out whenever the film is ready. Just kind of like, I'm not typing this every single time. So, this has already been made. I just changed the names and it is all right here, and then change the names, change the link, and that's pretty much it. It's already been made for me. So next, probably one of the most important things whenever you're trying to get started is finding clients. That's why I thought this would be a good topic to kind of land on too, because I know for myself, it was always kind of a struggle starting out of like, where's my next job going to come from? Where's my next job going to come from? So I wanted to kind of give some tips and advice on how to find new clients. And I think this applies for pretty much any kind of hobby or career that you're looking to get into. So first off is one that's a little taboo, but it's doing free work. And I know a lot of times People kind of shun on the whole giving away your work for free, but I think there's clever ways to do it, and you could do it the right way, and it could lead to more work. So that fitness video I shared at the beginning, I picked that one in particular because we actually did that for free, and we just did that last year. So I've been doing this for a little over 10 years, and there's still some times where I'll do free work because I see a benefit in it. So the reason why we did it was we did a giveaway. We know that a lot of fitness and gyms were hurt really hard because of COVID and the shutdowns. So we decided we were going to give away a video like that to a lucky winner. And so to enter, they had to fill out a form, provide us with their contact information, their email, their name, and name of the gym. They also had to like us on Instagram and Facebook and follow us there. And by doing that, we basically build a email list specifically focused on gyms and fitness trainers and people in the health industry. So now we have this whole list of people where if we wanted to try to do more work like that, we can contact them directly. They're also following us now on social media, so they'll see the posts we make. So if we post anything fitness related, it might catch their attention and they might want to move forward with us. And then we end up giving away a video to one of them. So we did still have to do something for free, and we had to do some extra work that we were not paid for. But the benefit of having those new leads now outweigh that free work that we had to do. And now we've had a couple of them show interest after seeing that video, and they might want to move forward with us. You know, obviously nothing is a guarantee, but if you play your cards right, you could definitely get in front of people. And I think, you know, that could even work if you do like a traditional art or you do a craft. You know, maybe you make a smaller version of whatever your craft is. Like, let's say you do woodworking, you know, maybe what people usually hire you for are these big kind of like wood sculptures or something. Well, what if you made like a really small one that's like in the size of a business card, and when you do a, you know, a live event or a trade show, or you're meeting with a client for the first time, you're giving away the small one to them, and they're going to be like, wow, this is really good quality. And then they might come back to you and they're going to want you to do like a real project for them. So nothing wrong with doing free work, but you just got to make sure you're doing it correctly. It doesn't mean that you're just giving away your work for free to everyone, to anyone for random reasons. But if you play your cards right, that could actually lead to quality work for you to do. If anything, at the end of the day, it also helps build your portfolio. So if you don't have any examples of work, you know, doing a video for a niche that you really want to get involved with, or doing photographs for, you know, a family for free, will give you more examples that you could use then market yourself to people that are willing to pay for your services. Next is social media. There's a ton of business that you could find from social media, and there's so many ways to do it. You know, just to give you some examples of things we do with Instagram, I was talking about like our process for wedding films and how we kind of share that. One of the things we do is when we share the wedding video, we tag all the other vendors so they're aware that the video is done. And a lot of times we'll work with maybe a wedding planner. Excuse me. We'll work with a wedding planner that we've never worked with before. She has no idea what our work looks like. You know, like she probably didn't look us up before the wedding. She had probably no idea what we were doing. She knows that we were running around all day, but she doesn't know what it's going to look like as a final product. So us tagging her on there might be the first time she ever sees our work, and she might love it. And next thing we know, she's referring us to weddings. Another thing that we do though with the Instagram is we'll actually go on to the couple's Instagram page, and often you can find a lot of their friends. And what are their friends sharing after the wedding? They're sharing photos they took from the wedding. So we'll go in and we'll like the post that they're making. So we kind of show up on their radar, and they're like, hey, wait, what's this company that liked this photo? Oh, this is the company that shot the video for, you know, so-and-so's wedding. I'm gonna follow them because they're probably going to share the film soon. So there's a lot of clever ways that you can play the social media platforms without paying for ads. TikTok has been like a huge thing. So for us, we've actually had a couple of videos go viral on TikTok. No leads yet, but you know, that's definitely a platform where you could really showcase your work. People are looking for quick, speedy content to consume. And if you can give them something that's very eye-catching in like 60 seconds or less, there's a good chance they're going to follow you. And who knows, maybe they're looking for the type of service that you offer. And next thing you know, it leads to something. And there are the options of ads too. So if you wanted to go that route to pay, the great thing about Facebook is you can target certain markets. So let's say you do want to become a family photographer. Well, you could target families in your local area that, maybe have certain, criterias that would fit, like they have kids or they just had a new kid or something like that. You can target those kind of things. A good one is weddings. It's very easy to target, a female in her 20s to 30s who just got engaged. You can target all those kind of things. You can even target the area. So like if you only want to find bride or grooms that are in the Addison area, you can target just that area. So you're very hyper focused in on what you need. And then lastly, video marketing is like a huge thing to leverage for social media. So just like I was talking about with TikTok, it's primarily video focused, and so are a lot of these platforms. And as the years progress, we're going to see more and more video. Like even Facebook ads, they recommend that you do video as opposed to photos. Everything is so video heavy. You want to make sure you're doing something. If you're not showing your service or anything, like behind the scenes, like say you are a DJ and you're out at a wedding or a bar or something like that, and you're doing your thing, you should be doing selfies of you with the crowd, people having a good time. You should be like showing your gear, your setup, all that kind of stuff. You should be documenting, and it doesn't need to be super professional either. There's a lot of stuff that we just document through the day that's literally just with my phone. It helps having the eye for it, but it's not required. There was a stat I saw where I think like 70% of consumers wish they could see more of their brand and see more behind the scenes from their favorite brands. So that's a pretty high percentage. And so that means if you're doing something and you have people following you, there's a good chance that they want to see more of you and they want to see more what you're doing and more of your process. Cold email, it can work. It's worked for us a few times. And the only thing to it is you just have to give quality emails to people, and you need to give value to them. So here's an example. We wanted to do more videos for dental offices, and so we just went out, we searched for a bunch of dental offices that are in the nearby area. And it just so happened that one of the ones that we emailed, they had just hired a marketing person and they were super interested in doing videos. So we just hit them at the right time, right place. And we had an email that wasn't salesy. We were just trying to give them information on video and how it works. And we tried to give them things that would be helpful for them. And they ended up booking with us. So cold email definitely works. It's just, you got to do it right. I get a lot of emails every day. You can improve your SEO, or you need to update your website, or just things like that feel super spammy. You don't want to do that, but you can send an email that's just like, hey, I saw you don't have any photos on your website. That's actually something we do. We would love to do some photos for you. Here's some examples of how photography can boost your SEO by whatever 110% or whatever it is. Like just giving them free information about what you do and just not trying to push your services on them right away. And you never know, it might lead to a job. And lastly, just asking family and friends. It's super simple, but a lot of times I found I have a lot of family members that just don't quite understand what I do. And very often when I see them, the first thing they say is, how's the photography going? And it's like, we rarely do photography. Our focus is like 95% video. And so it just kind of shows that it does take some education, and sometimes people might just not quite understand what you're doing. And so it's always good to just follow up with family and friends. Always be posting what you do on Facebook, because you never know, what aunt or grandma might be scrolling through and they're like, wow, that video was super cool. My nephew or my grandson made that, or whatever, so you always want to kind of be sharing with them what you're doing, and just try to explain it as simply as you can. So that way, maybe if they know someone, that they can help you out. So I always say within a year, you should start figuring out the kind of things that you love and don't love with your art or your craft. So like for myself, as an example, I hate bookkeeping. I hate like keeping track of, checks. I hate doing taxes. I hate all that kind of stuff. But there's someone out there that loves doing that. That's why we have financial advisors and CPAs and roles like that. There are people that just love doing those kind of tasks. So there's nothing wrong with giving that away. I want to kind of give an example. I'm in a real estate Facebook group, and there was this photographer in there, and he was bragging about how, hey, I just finished up my edits after a long day of shooting, going to bed now. And it was like 3 a.m. or something like that. And to me, that's doing it totally wrong. And a lot of people were arguing that, like, oh, that's awesome that you're doing that much work, like you're bringing home so much money. But to me, I think it's counterintuitive, because if you're looking to grow a business and you're really good at growing the business and doing the shoots, you should be hiring an editor right away. Like, you shouldn't be consuming your time with all that editing. You should have that freedom of, using that time that you are stuck editing all day, like, to do things where you're networking or you're doing cold email or whatever it is. So there's definitely nothing wrong with kind of letting go of tasks that you don't like. I know, like, when you're starting out, it can be kind of hard because a lot of times that costs money and you might not have money to spend on that. But I do think that it's important to start outlining those things that you don't enjoy doing early in your business. So then whenever you do get the chance, it's something that you could outsource to someone else, or you could hire someone else to do. You have to look at it as not a waste of money, but as an investment. Kind of going back to that real estate photographer example, he thinks that if he wouldn't be doing his own editing, that he'd be wasting money, whereas really that would be an investment for him to do, where it would free up his time. They would probably be better at editing than him because they're a specialist in it, and he might actually be able to find more jobs where he could be out shooting, making more money. And if not, at least it means he had a life. Like, he would have his evenings and they wouldn't be spent editing the whole night. He would be, spending time with family or something like that. So definitely you want to see, like, what things you can apply. Another one is like a website. So I know when I started out, I made my own website. Well, we wanted to do kind of a revision this year, and I could easily do it myself, but I just know there's people out there that can do it better than me. They can do it faster. And so even though I took some money out of our bank account, to me, that time I saved not having to do that, and the fact that we're better optimized for SEO and for Google and for things like that, it was totally worth all the money that I spent. And I would always do it that way going forward. And so for my 9 to 5ers, because I know a lot of times that's where a lot of us start. That's kind of where I started, where I had a normal job. I was doing this on the side, and I wanted to not just do it on the side anymore. I wanted to make it a full-time income. There's nothing wrong with keeping a 9 to 5 and doing the thing that you like doing as a side hustle. For me, it was pretty easy to leave because I was just straight out of college, wasn't married, no kids, was renting a small apartment. I really had like no overhead other than my student loans. I really just didn't have anything I had to worry about. My bills were very low. So it was very easy for me to take a chance. But I know for a lot of people, you might fall into something you love to do when you're in your 30s or your 40s and you have a family and you're married and you have kids and you have all these responsibilities and a house and a mortgage and all these kind of things. So you just want to make sure that you're being smart about what you're doing. You have to remember that if you leave a cushion 9 to 5 job that might have benefits and insurance and vacation, that you're not going to have those things anymore when you are working for yourself. And there are a lot of freedoms that come with working for yourself, but it also means you're going to have to figure out your own insurance. You're not going to be getting paid vacation anymore. There's a lot of things that are just not going to happen anymore because you're working on your own. So what I recommend is, kind of outlining your comfort level. What kind of things do you have to worry about? I always say that it's good to have 3 months worth of savings before you make that jump. So kind of get a little bit of a clientele established, get some jobs going. And then when you feel like you have enough savings where you could leave for 3 months, and let's say you don't make any money those 3 months, that you would still be okay. I think that's a pretty comfortable area where if you're really good at what you're doing and you're already getting started, I think within that 3 months, you should be able to get rolling where you can start paying your bills doing what you love. Um, and yeah, like I was saying, just kind of prepare to have a lot of changing. It is a lot of dedication and just being committed to what you're doing. Because of that flexibility, you don't have a boss overlooking you all the time to make sure you're getting your tasks done. You now are your own boss, so you have to make sure that you're staying on top of things, that you're dedicated, that you're, if you need to wake up at 9 o'clock to get jobs done, it means you need to wake up at 9 o'clock and you can't sleep in. Like, you have to make sure you're doing those things. And when you do have a 9 to 5, it's very easy to just kind of go with the routine, be told what to do and that kind of thing. But once you're on your own, it's no more being told what to do. You have to do it yourself. So I wanted to wrap up here. It's a lot to take this next step from a hobby to a business. Things don't come together overnight. It can take years to get going. But I just want to encourage you to take it one step at a time. Our society, I feel like, encourages us to always be hustling. And though there's going to be a lot of seasons of hustling for our businesses, we should be striving for freedom of being a business owner, to be your own boss, to get your own hours and to be able to do something you love. I didn't get into this to be working 14 hours a day every day. And there are some days where I do that, and it happens a lot. But my end goal is not to be doing that my whole life. I want to start eventually getting more and more people helping me, get other shooters, other editors. And so that way I can step back a little bit more and have that freedom of, if I want to take a 2-week vacation, I can, and I don't have to worry about it. And I know that's sustainable. And it doesn't look like the other ways, like I said, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I'm just now starting to get to the point where I feel like I could do things like that. So it takes time. But I just want to encourage you that it's not all just about the hustle. You want to be enjoying your time and just keep pushing through. And I know that, if you keep pushing through, you can make it through. So I wanted to leave with some resources that I have found helpful, and I think they'll be helpful for you. So first off, what I would recommend is checking out Creator Studio. It's the little blue icon that's right there. It's a Facebook and Instagram platform. It's actually through Facebook, so it's completely connected with Facebook, and it's great for scheduling out posts for your Facebook and Instagram. So that was one thing that was a struggle for me, was keeping on top of my social media. And now with the ability to schedule out things, it makes things so much better. So I can spend, a Monday morning, or I could have like my assistant spend a Monday morning and just schedule out all of our posts for that week. So then as the week is progressing, I don't have to worry about that because it's all been done in one go. So Creative Studio is a free way to do that. There's also Hero Posts, which you do have to pay for, but it's extremely affordable. And with Hero Posts, it also includes in there things like Twitter, YouTube, a bunch of other platforms that you can automate your posts. You can even automate Facebook groups. So if you have a Facebook group for your business page or something, you can automate out your posts that way, which is really cool. The little circle green icon with the phone, that's Google Voice. It's also totally free. And I would recommend, if you're having a hard time kind of separating personal life from business, definitely get a free phone number through Google Voice. So that way you could use that phone number for all of your kind of business related transactions and calls and things like that. I love that, because if I see something come through Google Voice and it's like 8 o'clock at night, I know that it's something I can just wait till tomorrow morning. I know it's not an emergency. Whereas when clients had my cell phone, I never knew if it was family texting me, friend texting me, a client. And so I might read the text and it's a client, and the next thing I know, I'm getting sucked into some client work that I didn't want to be doing in the evening. So definitely recommend that. 17 Hats was a CRM I was talking about. If it's possible, I can actually drop a coupon for that in the chat. If you guys are interested in checking that out, I can put that in there. And then lastly is Photo Flash Drive, which I also have a coupon code for. So Photo Flash Drive, they're this really cool, they basically make products. So we started out using them for like our flash drive boxes. They make this really cool video album where it's like a photo book, but when you open it, it has a screen on the inside. So we use them for all of our wedding deliverables. But recently they started doing a lot of cool branded stuff. So like glassware, cutting boards, all sorts of cool things you could do. So I think that's always a cool way to market yourself. Obviously, when you go to a networking event, the most common thing is to hand out business cards. But it's kind of cool if you have the budget for it to maybe buy like some glassware or something, unique, and handing that out when you go to a networking event is going to leave a longer impression. And what's cool is that's something that they might use in their day-to-day life. So they're going to always kind of be reminded of you. So definitely I recommend branding as much as you can. Obviously don't go over the top. You don't want to have like a hat, a shirt, sunglasses, like be totally branded with your logo. But it is fun to find creative ways to brand yourself and to hand that out to people. And I also do a podcast we just started this year, and I wanted to plug 2 episodes in particular because one thing I didn't get a lot into was finances, just because I don't feel like I'm totally qualified to talk about that. I actually sat down with my financial advisor for one of our episodes, and we talked all sorts of stuff when it comes to business and knowing your numbers and financial stuff and doing your taxes and all sorts of fun details like that. So I definitely check that out if you're looking for more information on that. I also did one with Brian Campbell, actually, who owns Photo Flash Drive. And we did one on kind of branding and marketing for your business. And it was very kind of like beginner level stuff, which is good. But also, if you've been doing this for a few years, I think there's a ton of knowledge in there too. So I know we didn't get like a ton into those things like marketing and finances. So I figured these 2 episodes would be a perfect thing to share with you. So in your own free time, you could check those out and, learn a little bit more about those 2 things. And this is just my information if you wanted to follow me or kind of see more of what our work looks like and stuff. Also, if you have any questions, if you're watching this at a later time and you weren't in the live recording, more than happy to answer any questions you send to me on Instagram or, anywhere like that. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And that is all I have. Thank you for joining me. And I will go ahead and open up to any questions if we have any.
Great, thank you so much. That was an awesome presentation. We do have a question here in the chat. If you have 2 brands, does that mean 2 of everything? Tax books, expense book, bank accounts, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes and no. There's some things that overlap and some things that don't. So for me, we actually have 2 LLCs. So with the wedding brand, I share that with one other guy. So I wanted to just keep the 2 separate because Visual Filmworks is totally just my wife and mine. So we wanted to just kind of have them as 2 separate LLCs. So the bookkeeping is a little bit separate. So like what we essentially do is Bella Tiamo, the wedding one, just pays me every time we do a wedding. So we keep some in the bank account for our taxes and for expenses. And then I just pay myself from there. So at the end of the year, I end up getting a 1099 from Bella. And then all of that goes into Visual Filmworks when we do like our taxes. What I would advise is if it's just you and you don't have a partner in it, I would recommend setting up one kind of umbrella LLC, and then you can always form other ones underneath that. So then when you do your taxes, it can all kind of be that one umbrella when you're reporting your taxes, and you can file it under one business, even though it was 2 brands. So again, if you're by yourself, that's the way I would do it. So it's a little cleaner. But if you are kind of maybe sharing assets or a percentage of the business with someone and you start your own brand that's not involved with them, I would recommend just kind of splitting it all up. It is a little more work, maybe a little more expense on the back end, but I think it's probably the safer way to go. Now, with some things, we get to overlap some things that we do, and some things have their own. So it's 2 different websites, 2 different kind of Instagram channels, 2 different Facebook channels. Pretty much anything like branding wise, they're separate. So we do have to operate 2, which can be a little more work, but for us, it just makes more sense because we're talking to 2 totally different audiences. But things like 17 Hats, we only need one account, but we can have multiple brands. So we can have some overlap there. So like if I make an email template for Bella, and the email that we would send for Visual Filmworks is kind of similar, I can pull from that resource and kind of use that in different places. I'm trying to think of some other examples, like and then obviously like gear and expense, there is some that overlap. So most of the expenses I do, if it's just going to be for me, like it's a camera that's just for my business, I will expense that through Visual Filmworks because that's where I kind of keep track of things that I am writing off. Whereas Bella, we try to not really do very many expenses through there because it's really just kind of like a a kitty for us to have to kind of pay ourselves out. So I hopefully that, I don't know if there's any other examples they were maybe looking for, if we should split or not split, but as far as like, us and the things that we do have to split up and stuff, that's kind of how we've handled it.
Great, thank you. And then there's another one. For marketing, have you hired outside services or gone with software and online options?
Yeah. So, we, like for my website, for example, there's someone local that I use. If you are looking for web design, I'm happy to share her information. So she helped with that. There's some things where we've just used online, like like random things here and there. Like I've tried things like Fiverr, and it's kind of hit or miss. It really just matters. Like we don't have like an internal person who just does marketing. But I've kind of hired people's services to do certain things for us. So like with our YouTube, I have a guy that I know that I just hire him subcontract when I need him. Like if we have a busy wedding season coming up, he will kind of optimize the videos for us on YouTube. So I just kind of pay him per job on those. And then with like our Facebook, sometimes it's me doing it, sometimes it's my wife doing it, or sometimes we're hiring help to do it. So it just kind of varies. We don't have anyone on staff for it per se, but we'll just kind of use services as needed. But I would just make sure that they're quality and there's someone you trust. I think it's important to make sure there's someone that understands your industry. That's always been a struggle too, where someone's like, hey, this person that I know is looking to do more Facebook marketing, like can they do it for you? And they don't know a single thing about what we do. And I could try to educate them, but then that's going to take a lot of my time. So I think it's always good to try to find someone that understands your industry. Like for example, the web designer we use, she's done a little bit of video. She's referred clients to us, so she kind of gets what we do. So it was very easy to be like, hey, this is what I wanted to say, and she totally got it. But if she didn't have that background in video, then it would have been a whole process trying to teach her how to do that.
Great, thanks again. So I think that kind of led in well into our next question is, you mentioned an assistant and a few other people. Do you have any tips or tricks on employees and how you manage employees?
So I haven't had to deal with W-2s and or full-time, part-time. Even we've had an intern with us since last year, and he's going to start working for us more frequently. But my financial advisor was just suggesting that we just stay subcontract for the time being. It's just kind of easier to navigate, and it does kind of save you're behind a little bit, because if we end up with another year like last year, like for example, I have about 6 people that subcontract for me from time to time, not like crazy tons amounts, but they'll do like maybe 3 weddings for me a year or something. And if I would have had them on as part-time or full-time, I would have had a lot of struggles, because I would have had to been trying to provide for them when we have no leads coming in, and it would have just been a mess. And so, I don't do enough volume where it would make sense to bring any of them in. So I haven't really dealt with that. What I would say is, if you're looking to provide benefits for that person and you do think that you'll have consistent work for them, definitely look into it. I can't remember in that podcast episode if we covered this or not. I know it was something we were going to cover. I don't remember if we did. I'll have to check, but that might be a good place. But if you are growing and you are considering hiring someone, I would definitely I would reach out to like a financial advisor and get their 100% opinion, because unless you're looking to provide them with consistent income, like a subcontract route might be better to go with them.
Great. And then one last question. Where would we find your podcast?
I can put that in here right now. It's just called Wedding Community Podcast. It's still newer, but it should still show up if you search it. It's on iTunes, Spotify, all those. And then it's also on YouTube as well. I'll put it in the chat too.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we got a lot of comments on how insightful you were, and we just really appreciate this new take on being a business owner. A lot of people, don't realize how much there is that goes into it.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's really like 2 different sides of the brain. Like when I started, I didn't know a single thing about business. Like I didn't go to business school. I went to art school. So, I wanted to become an artist or whatever. And so it's but it's cool whenever you start kind of learning the business stuff and you can apply that to your art, because then you can you can do it for a living, which is cool, and it can become your career. So yeah, it's not obviously for everyone. That's why I was kind of talking about the freelance versus being a business owner, because for some people maybe they're better off just freelancing, but it is pretty cool to kind of be able to build your own thing. And I found it almost becomes just as addicting to do the business stuff as it was doing the creative stuff once you start kind of getting good at it and you start seeing it grow.